Hey everyone. I've never told this story completely before, but recent events have made me want to share. This happened 11 years ago, but I'm finally ready to tell the truth. So, here's the thing. For 10 years I raised another man's child as my own. We were happy until one day his biological mother returned after a decade of absence, driving Mercedes and designer clothes. She wanted to take back her son she'd abandoned as a baby. When he refused to go with her, she launched this systematic campaign to destroy our lives. False CPS reports claiming I was a predator, spreading rumors throughout our community, turning the entire school against us through lies and manipulation. 2. What I did in response? Well, it destroyed her life forever. Let me start from the beginning. I was 18 when I became a father to a child who wasn't mine biologically. My girlfriend Jane and I had just graduated high school when her older sister Lisa came to us sobbing about fertility struggles. She'd spent 3 years trying to conceive and was desperate. She goes, "Please, you're young and healthy. Be surrogates for me." I was reluctant, you know? We were 18, had plans for college, travel, our future. But Jane seemed okay with it, and I loved her. I wanted to support her family. Everything went smoothly until Jane was 8 months pregnant with Lisa's baby. That's when Lisa burst into our apartment with news. She goes, "I got offered a promotion in Europe. I can't handle a baby with this career opportunity. You've grown attached anyway, so just keep it." Jane completely exploded. She started screaming at Lisa about how this wasn't the plan, how she wasn't ready to be a mother at 18. But Lisa didn't care. She just left. Flew to Europe, leaving us with a baby we never planned for. A month later, Jane gave birth. We brought little Thomas home. My parents were never in the picture. Jane's parents claimed they were too exhausted to help. All the work fell on us. It was an absolute nightmare. We had travel plans, job opportunities, everything we had to give up for this little boy. At least I thought we were giving these up together. It became clear very quickly that Jane couldn't handle it. She yelled at him a lot, and over time started making these jokes about disappearing like her sister. Turns out those weren't jokes. One morning I woke up to feed Thomas and found a note on the kitchen counter. Jane wrote that she needed to find herself and couldn't do this anymore. Jane was gone. I tried calling her, but she'd already deactivated her number. At 18 I was left alone with a child who wasn't mine. For the next 10 years, I gave Thomas everything I had. I didn't go to college. I worked 2 jobs. Every free moment was spent being the best dad I could be. My own father was never around, and I didn't want to repeat his mistakes. It wasn't much, but Thomas was happy. He called me dad without thinking twice. He knew his history, but it didn't matter to him. As far as he was concerned, I was dad. And our life was perfect, until the day she came back. Thomas was 10 when Lisa showed up at his school during pickup. First time in 10 years. She was wearing designer clothes, driving a Mercedes. Apparently she'd married some tech executive and decided she wanted to play mommy now that the hard part was over. I remember Thomas hid behind my leg when she tried to walk over to him. He whispers, "Dad, who is that lady?" My heart broke. Lisa's face turned red, and she started making a scene right there in the school parking lot. She keeps yelling, "I'm your mother. I'm your mother." Thomas pressed his face into my jeans. Other parents were starting to stare. I picked Thomas up and carried him to our car while Lisa followed us screaming about her rights. That night, she blew up my phone with texts demanding to see her son. I reminded her about the legal documents she'd signed giving up her parental rights. She said her new husband's lawyer would overturn those papers. The next week she started showing up everywhere. At the grocery store, at the park, during baseball practice. She'd take photos from a distance and post them on Facebook with captions like, "Watching my baby boy from afar because his kidnapper won't let me near him." Then she escalated. She started telling other parents at school that something was off about a young single man being so obsessed with raising someone else's child. She'd corner moms at pickup and whisper about how it wasn't natural for a man to want to raise a boy alone. One day, I was helping Thomas with his homework at the kitchen table when there was a knock at the door. 2 CPS workers stood there with stern expressions. They go, "We've received a report about inappropriate conduct with a minor in the home." My hands started shaking as they explained that someone had accused me of being a predator. They needed to interview Thomas separately and inspect our home immediately. The lead worker, this woman with graying hair, pulled back severely, pulled out a thick folder. She goes, "The complaint alleges you've been grooming this child, isolating him from his biological family, and engaging in inappropriate physical contact." I felt the blood drain from my face. I'm like, "That's completely false. Thomas is my son. I've raised him since he was a baby." The younger worker goes, "That's what we're here to determine." He was already pulling out his camera to document everything. Thomas must have sensed my panic because he started crying and wrapped his arms around my waist, begging them not to take him away. He's sobbing, "Please don't take me away from my dad. I didn't do anything wrong. He didn't do anything wrong." The female worker knelt down. She goes, "Nobody's in trouble, honey. We just need to ask you some questions privately, okay?" But Thomas clung tighter to me. He's like, "No. I want my dad. I want my dad." It broke my heart watching them gently pry his fingers off my shirt. His terrified eyes never left mine as they led him to his bedroom. The next 3 hours were absolute hell. The male worker sat across from me with a clipboard, firing question after question. How long have you lived together? What are your sleeping arrangements? Has Thomas ever complained about inappropriate touching? Have you ever taken photos of him undressed? Do you have a history of relationships with minors? Each question felt like a slap. I answered everything honestly, but I could see the suspicion in his eyes. Here I was, a single man raising a child who wasn't biologically mine. In his world, that probably did look suspicious. Meanwhile, they were going through everything. They photographed Thomas's bedroom, our bathroom, even checked the computer for inappropriate content. They went through my phone, my browser history, my social media accounts. Through the walls, I could hear Thomas's voice, high and stressed, though I couldn't make out the words. Every few minutes he'd cry out, "I want my dad." It took everything in me not to burst through that door. The workers were thorough. They checked our refrigerator, looking for signs of neglect. They examined Thomas's schoolwork spread across the kitchen table. They even looked through our photo albums, scrutinizing every picture of Thomas and me together. The male worker goes, "This is a lot of photos." I'm like, "He's my son. Of course I take pictures of him." He goes, "But not your biological son." I said, "Biology doesn't make you a father. Love does. Being there does." I've been there every single day for 10 years. After what felt like an eternity, they finally emerged from Thomas's room. Thomas immediately ran to me, burying his face in my chest. The female worker goes, "Your son seems very anxious. He mentioned someone has been contacting him online, claiming to be his mother. He also said kids at school have been saying things about you." I explained about Lisa, showed them the restraining order paperwork, the screenshots of the messages. They took copies of everything, but their expressions remained neutral. She continues, "Thomas was very clear about his relationship with you. He spoke about your daily routines, how you help him with homework, take him to baseball practice. He knows the difference between appropriate and inappropriate touching, and he was adamant that nothing inappropriate has ever happened." Relief flooded through me, but she wasn't finished. "However, he's clearly under a lot of stress. He mentioned being confused about his real mom and feeling responsible for protecting you from people who are being mean. That's a heavy burden for a 10-year-old. The male worker closed his folder. He goes, "We'll need to file our report. Given that this is the second complaint in a short period, we may need to conduct follow-up visits." After they left, Thomas was quiet. He picked at his dinner, barely eating. When I tucked him in that night, he clung to me longer than usual. He whispers, "They kept asking if I was happy. If you ever hurt me." I told them no, but they kept asking different ways. I smoothed his hair, fighting back my own tears. I'm like, "You did great, buddy. You told the truth, and that's all that matters." But inside, I was terrified. How many more of these visits could we endure? How much more could Thomas take? Before this stress broke something inside him. I knew exactly who had made that call. The next day, I filed for a restraining order against Lisa and started documenting everything. But I didn't know I was already too late. Lisa had already started spreading rumors. The rumors spread through our neighborhood like wildfire. Within days, I noticed parents pulling their kids away when Thomas and I walked past. At the grocery store, people who'd smiled at us for years now avoided eye contact. The cashier who always asked about Thomas's baseball games suddenly became cold and efficient, scanning our items without a word. Thomas noticed too. Thomas came home from school one afternoon with red eyes and wouldn't tell me what happened. I found out later from his teacher that some kids had started calling me names during recess. She'd intervened, but the damage was done. Thomas had gotten into his first fight defending me. The next morning I dropped Thomas off at school and noticed a group of mothers huddled near the entrance. They kept glancing my way and whispering. One of them, Sarah, whose son played on Thomas's baseball team, broke away from the group and marched toward me. She goes, "We need to talk. Several of us have concerns about you coaching the team." My stomach dropped. I'd been coaching Thomas's little league team for 3 years. It was one of our favorite things to do together. I'm like, "What concerns?" Though I already knew the answer. She goes, "Given the recent allegations, we think it would be best if you step down for the children's safety." The words hit me like a punch. I wanted to scream that the allegations were false, that CPS had cleared me, that Lisa was manipulating everyone. Instead, I just nodded and walked back to my car. My hands shook as I gripped the steering wheel. Lisa was systematically destroying our life, and she was winning. That afternoon, I got a call from the school principal. She wanted to meet with me about some anonymous reports they'd received. My heart sank. I knew exactly who was behind those reports. The school principal, Mrs. Chen, had always been supportive of our situation. But when I walked into her office, her expression was guarded. She goes, "Multiple parents have expressed concerns about Thomas's well-being. Some claimed he seemed withdrawn. Others said they'd seen bruises from his fights. One report even suggested Thomas had confided in a classmate that he was afraid to go home." I'm like, "That's not true. You can ask Thomas yourself. He's happy. He's loved. These reports, they're all coming from... She interrupted. I can't discuss who made the reports. But given the volume of concerns, we need to take action. Thomas will need to meet with the school counselor twice a week. She paused, looking uncomfortable. And he's being suspended from extracurricular activities pending the counselor's assessment. I couldn't hide the anger in my voice. I'm like... You're taking him off the baseball team? Do you know what that will do to him? Baseball is everything to him. She goes, it's temporary. But I could see she was just following protocol. Once the counselor clears him, he can return to all activities. I left the office feeling defeated. How was I supposed to tell Thomas he couldn't play baseball? How could I explain that the woman who gave birth to him was destroying the life we'd built? That night, Thomas cried when I told him about the suspension. He didn't understand why he was being punished when he hadn't done anything wrong. I held him while he sobbed, promising we'd get through this together. But for the first time in 10 years, I wasn't sure I could keep that promise. The harassment escalated over the next few days. Our tires were slashed overnight. Someone spray-painted Predator on our apartment door in red letters. The security cameras I'd installed caught figures in hoodies. Their faces were obscured. I filed police reports, but without clear identification, there was nothing they could do. The apartment manager gave me a warning about the vandalism, saying other tenants were complaining about the drama we were bringing to the building. Then came the digital warfare. Lisa had somehow gotten Thomas's gaming information and started sending messages through his tablet. The first one came while he was doing homework at the kitchen table. The message said, "Hi Thomas. This is your real mom. I miss you so much. I have so many presents for you. Do you want to see pictures of your new room at my house?" My blood ran cold when Thomas showed me the message. I immediately screenshotted it and called my lawyer, but she warned that without concrete proof, it was Lisa. There wasn't much we could do legally. Over the next week, the messages continued. They started innocent enough. "I bought you a new bike. It's red, your favorite color. Your stepdad has a pool. You could swim every day. I have a PlayStation 5 waiting for you." But then they gradually became more manipulative. "Your dad is keeping us apart. That's not fair, is it? Don't you want to meet your stepdad? He's really nice and rich. I have a big house with servants. You could have anything you want. Your dad can't give you the life I can. He works 2 jobs and is always tired." Each message was like a knife to my heart. Lisa was systematically trying to turn Thomas against me, using material things I could never provide. The worst message came on a Friday night. "Your dad is going to lose. He doesn't have the money to fight me. But you don't have to suffer. Come live with me, and I'll make all this stop. I'll make sure he doesn't get in trouble." Thomas showed me every message, but I could see they were affecting him. His shoulders had started to slump with the weight of adult problems no child should carry. He'd started asking questions about Lisa, about why she left, about whether she really was his mom, about whether he'd be happier with her. One night while I was making dinner, he goes, "Dad, what if she's right? What if you can't win?" I knelt down to his level, taking his small hands in mine. I'm like, "Listen to me, Thomas. This isn't about winning or losing. This is about family. And you are my family, no matter what any court says, no matter what anyone else claims." But I could see the confusion in his eyes. At 10 years old, he was trying to process concepts that would challenge adults. The stress was taking its toll. His grades started slipping, he had trouble sleeping, and he'd started flinching every time his tablet made a notification sound. I changed all his privacy settings, blocked unknown contacts, even considered taking away his tablet entirely. But that felt like letting Lisa win, like letting her steal another piece of his childhood. The messages kept coming from new accounts faster than I could block them. Lisa clearly had resources and time that I didn't. While I was working 2 jobs and trying to keep our lives together, she was orchestrating a full-scale psychological assault on a 10-year-old boy. Then on a Thursday afternoon, everything exploded. I'd sent Thomas to school with Mrs. Patterson, planning to use the day to meet with legal aid lawyers. But 2 hours later, I got a frantic call from the school. Mrs. Chen goes, "Thomas is missing. He was in class, went to the bathroom, and never came back. We've searched the entire building." My world tilted. I raced to the school, my heart pounding. Police were already there, questioning teachers and searching the grounds. An officer asks, "When did you last see him?" I'm like, "This morning." He was fine. He was... Then my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "He's safe. He came to me. Don't worry, I'm taking good care of my son." I showed the police immediately. They traced the number, but it led to a burner phone. An Amber Alert was issued, Lisa's photo distributed, but she had planned well. The next 8 hours were the longest of my life. I sat in the police station answering questions, providing photos, praying for any news. The detectives were kind, but honest. If Lisa had taken him out of state, it would be harder to track them. Then around 10 p.m., Thomas called my phone. He goes, "Dad." His voice was small, scared. I'm like, "Thomas, where are you? Are you okay?" He goes, I'm at a hotel. She said we were just going for ice cream, but then she kept driving. Dad, I want to come home. I'm like, I'm coming to get you. Can you tell me what you see? But then I heard Lisa's voice in the background, and the line went dead. The police traced the call to a hotel 2 hours away. By the time they arrived, Lisa and Thomas were gone. But the hotel had security footage, clear evidence of Lisa taking Thomas without permission. My lawyer goes, this changes everything. Kidnapping, crossing state lines. She's destroyed any chance at custody. But I didn't care about legal victories. I just wanted Thomas home. The next morning, Lisa called from another burner phone. She goes, I'm bringing him back. She sounded exhausted. He won't stop crying for you. This isn't how I thought it would be. I'm like, Dini. Where? She goes, the school. 1 hour. Come alone. I immediately called the police, but they advised against going alone. We compromised. They would stay out of sight, unless needed. I arrived at the school to find Lisa's Mercedes in the parking lot. Thomas was in the back seat, and when he saw me, he started sobbing. Lisa got out, looking haggard. Nothing like the polished woman who'd started this war. She goes, he doesn't even know me. Tears were streaming down her face. He spent the whole time talking about you, showing me pictures on his tablet of your life together. Every story was about you. Thomas scrambled out of the car and ran to me. I held him tight, feeling his small body shake with sobs. He keeps saying, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. She said if I went with her, she'd stop hurting you. She said she'd make everyone be nice to you again. I'm like, it's not your fault. None of this is your fault. Lisa stood there watching us, something breaking in her expression. She goes, I thought he'd love me once he got to know me. I thought nature would win. The police moved in then, placing her under arrest. She didn't resist, just kept staring at Thomas clinging to me. As they cuffed her, she goes, I'm his mother. Thomas said, his voice stronger than I'd heard in weeks. No, you're not. You're just someone who left. He's my dad. As the police car drove away with Lisa, I held Thomas in the school parking lot, both of us crying with relief. We had survived, but the scars would take time to heal. The next days were a whirlwind of police interviews, court appearances, and therapy sessions. Lisa was charged with custodial interference and kidnapping. Her husband, apparently unaware of her actions, filed for divorce and offered to testify about her obsessive behavior. During the legal proceedings, shocking details emerged about Lisa's planning. Police found detailed files in her home, photos of Thomas from a distance, printouts of his school schedule, maps of our neighborhood. She'd been stalking us for months before making her move. Her ex-husband's testimony was devastating. He revealed that Lisa had hired private investigators to track us, that she'd spent tens of thousands of dollars on lawyers before even approaching us. She'd been planning this reunion like a military operation. He testified. She had a whole room dedicated to this. Photos covering the walls, legal documents, even a timeline of when she planned to escalate things. She called it Operation Homecoming. I thought she was just nostalgic. I had no idea she was planning to kidnap a child. The prosecution also revealed that Lisa had been behind the vandalism at our apartment. Security footage from a nearby business caught her paying teenagers to slash our tires and spray paint our door. She'd even orchestrated some of the harassment at Thomas's school, befriending parents and feeding them false information about me. But perhaps the most chilling revelation was the extent of her online manipulation. Forensic investigators found that she'd created dozens of fake social media accounts to spread rumors about me. She'd posed as concerned parents, former neighbors, even claimed to be an anonymous CPS worker who'd seen disturbing things in our home. The digital trail showed months of careful planning. She'd researched every aspect of our lives, found out where I worked, where Thomas went to school, even what restaurants we frequented. She'd been building her case while I'd been obliviously living our normal life. Slowly, the truth spread through our community. The parents who had shunned us began reaching out with apologies. Some were genuinely horrified when they learned how they'd been manipulated. Sarah from the baseball team came to our door with tears in her eyes. She goes, I'm so sorry. She seemed so convincing, so heartbroken. She had photos, documents. I never thought someone would lie about something like that. Mrs. Patterson brought over a casserole and cried on our doorstep. She goes, I feel like such a fool. That woman played me like a fiddle. She knew exactly what to say to make me doubt you. The school lifted all restrictions, and Mrs. Chen personally apologized. They even offered to transfer Thomas to a different class if he wanted a fresh start, but he chose to stay. Thomas goes, I want to face the kids who were mean to me. That determination made me proud. But the damage was real. Thomas had nightmares almost every night, afraid Lisa would somehow escape and come back. He became clingy, anxious when I was out of sight for more than a few minutes. We increased his therapy sessions to 3 times a week, working through the trauma together. Dr. Reeves helped Thomas understand that what happened wasn't his fault. She explained, adults are supposed to protect children. When an adult tries to hurt a child or their family, that's never the child's responsibility to fix. A week later, we had an unexpected visitor. Jane stood at our door, looking older, tired, but familiar. She goes, "I heard what happened. My parents called. I came as soon as I could." Thomas hid behind me, unsure about this new development. He'd heard about Jane but had no real memories of her. Jane goes, "I'm not here to disrupt your life. I know I gave up any right to that when I left. But I thought maybe I could help. Testify about Lisa, about how she manipulated everyone back then, too." Over the next few days, Jane shared stories I'd never heard. About how Lisa had manipulated their parents into believing Jane was unstable and unfit to be a mother. How Lisa had promised to take care of everything if Jane would just step aside for a while. Jane knows. She made me believe I was doing the right thing. Well, she convinced me that you and Thomas would be better off without me, that I was just holding you back. I was so young and scared. I believed her. It was a revelation that reframed everything. Lisa hadn't just abandoned us. She'd systematically broken apart our makeshift family from the beginning. Lisa was sentenced to probation and mandatory psychiatric treatment. A permanent restraining order was put in place. Jane prepared to leave after the trial, but Thomas stopped her. He goes, "Maybe you could visit sometimes, if you promise not to leave without saying goodbye." It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet, but it was a start. Today Thomas is 13. He's thriving in his art program, slowly learning to trust again. We have a dog named Buddy, a small house, and a community we've slowly rebuilt. Our life isn't what anyone would have planned. But watching Thomas head off to school that morning, backpack bouncing, turning to wave at me and Buddy in the doorway, I know we found our way. Different from others, marked by challenges, but ours. Completely, unquestionably ours. Lisa lost everything. Her husband, money, respect. And us? We became stronger.